Hi, I'm Rose Torossian, and I'm here with the beautiful Savia Rocks, and you're listening to the Us People podcast.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I'm humbled to have Rose here with me, who is a junior solicitor. Rose, thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me.
Aw, I love it when I have people here so excited to come on the podcast because I can see that they authentically really want to do the podcast. So, Rose, thank you so much for coming on. My first question for you, Rose, is I always love to know where people have come from and their backgrounds. Could you tell us a little bit about your background of where you grew up and how that influenced you to be the person who you are today?
That is a very deep question, and I agree with you. It's very important to ask people who they are and where they come from. It's part of obviously their past, and it shapes who they become in the future. And I don't really know where to start from.
Oh,
I guess, yeah, I would. I am Armenian by nationality, so I'm proud of my heritage. I grew up mostly in an inner city suburb called Redfern, and yes, and Redfern is it's a identifiable area in terms of the community, the Aboriginal community, I should say there. So where I grew up in Redfern, and it was associated with a lot of Aborigines that lived in that area, and it was associated with them in particular because in the 70s, the Labor government decided, Gough Whitlam in particular, the Prime Minister at the time, decided to assist the Aborigines in Redfern and give them a grant. So he gave the Aboriginal housing company a grant, and they were able to buy a block of land, or a block of houses, I should say, over a period of 30 years. And so yeah, and basically they were able to then live in those houses and at a very low cost. And so I identify immensely with with that area, I should say, because it shaped who I was. It was obviously a socially a disadvantaged area. So I grew up in a low socioeconomic environment, and there was a lot of racism there. So this year, the Black Lives Matter really resonated with me. I'm as white as anything, as you can see, Savia. I'm all very white,
aw.
very, very white. But just by association, I felt the prejudices that the Aborigines in that environment
Yeah.
experienced. And just by mere association with Redfern, I was looked down upon, and that really shaped me in that I grew up wanting to make a difference in people's lives, and I wanted, obviously we can't eliminate racism, but I wanted to at least, I can't think of the word at the moment, but um, lessen it. That's what I'm looking for. Lessen racism around Australia, around the world, and so I was huge on justice. I wanted to make a difference, and I thought to myself, growing up, what sort of an occupation would I like to have? And it wasn't until I was probably 18 that I decided, okay, I can either become a journalist or I could become a solicitor. I didn't end up doing law. I even didn't have the grades immediately out of high school to do journalism, because both require high ranking entrances to get into university. So I decided, I got into humanities, and then from there, yeah, I transferred over to a journalism degree. And so I thought, through my words, I'm going to make a difference. And that has always been my inspiration to do so. And I tried to break into the media industry in Australia, and I was successful. Unfortunately, it's we don't have a lot of media outlets in Australia. I looked towards America because I thought, someday, maybe I can go to America. They've got more media outlets. There has to be more opportunities, but that didn't come to fruition either. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I came to a point where I thought perhaps I should look into law again. And I had a strong interest in politics from a young age as well. And so I decided I'll go back to university and I'll do law, and hence I've become a junior solicitor.
Oh wow, that's an amazing journey just from like 2 questions.
Yes. Yes, it
I
is.
love it. I love the fact that you support different. I can't say it's a group. I think it's a community. You don't have to be black or white to be part of Black Lives Matter. You just have to be somebody who understands like you do, where something resonates with you and you know how it feels to be casted out. I always have this feeling, Rose, where I say that racism is taught to somebody. You don't come out. You're not born with racism. You're
That
not
is so true.
born being angry. You're not born being abusive. These things are taught to you or shown to you as you grow up. So I have sincere gratitude for you even feeling and
Thank you so much.
understanding, yeah, what it
I
feels
really
like.
appreciate it. Yeah, it was a very difficult time growing up, but there was, growing up, I had a lot of shame. Just simply, as I said, it through association by living in that area. I had, school children say to me, "Oh my God, you live in Redfern." So it was very heartbreaking to go through those experiences, but I always turn to Oprah because I absolutely adore her. So she says that your the experiences that you go through can strengthen you, and the wounds that you experience, if you use that to your advantage, then you can change people's lives, and that's something that I'm hoping to do in the future.
That is true. I think everything you've been through, sometimes I think people say things out of jealousy also. So they may say to you that, oh, you've come from this part of the area, but at least you have a heritage of where you come
Exactly.
from and you know where you come from. Knowing that, you are able to uplift people and guide them through situations that other people might not understand. So Rose, never ever, you know, put yourself down, because every single one of us are beautiful. We just need to know that and understand it. So that's the
I
advice I
agree.
always give to people when, they talk about their backgrounds. Before we get into where you work, and I know
Yes.
we spoke about this a little bit before we started recording, I would love people to know about your name. I know that I call you Rose, but could you
Yes.
tell us the reason why everyone calls you Rose? Because I love the story.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, basically, everyone calls me Rose because in 2007, I ran for federal politics in Australia, and ran for the Liberal Party. So that's quite a conservative party, as I had mentioned before. And I ran in a very safe Labor seat. So the two major parties in Australia is the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, and it was the third safest seat in the country. So I had no delusions about winning, none whatsoever. But I wanted the people to have an alternative as their representative. So I put myself out there, and I thought it makes it fairer in terms of justice and democracy. Coming back to my name, I thought, I was, as I said, I was born as Vatite Huri Torossian, and my family always call me by my middle name, Huri. But I thought people aren't going to be able to pronounce that. Like, they're just not going to be able to say it. And so I thought, to make it easier on them, I'll just ask them to call me Rose. And Rose, the reason being is my first name means rose butterfly. So Vatita means rose butterfly. And I thought it would just be very simple and easy for them to pronounce. And mind you, I'm actually proud of the Premier of New South Wales because she's Armenian, and she has a very difficult surname to pronounce, and she wasn't sure whether people were actually going to be able to pronounce her surname. And a lot of people, got it wrong, and some still get it wrong. But look who who she is and what she's become. And so it's not about your name, obviously. It's about, as I said before, the difference that you can make, and the contribution you can give to the world and to the community.
I love that. See, guys, that's a story, and I'm sure there are so many people out there that can resonate with a name that means something. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
definitely.
yeah,
I can, off
definitely.
the top of my head, Obama, like
See,
he was another inspiration because, Barack Obama, like, who was he kept his name, and it was like when he actually won office, it was absolutely inspirational for so many different reasons, not just because he kept his name, and people had to learn how to pronounce his name as people have done in New South Wales with Gladys Berejiklian, but he was such an inspiration for change, and he was the person that I think Americans were waiting for, that Martin Luther King had dreamed of. So I have such immense respect and admiration for him.
that's perfect. Aw. Let's talk
Yes.
about you being a solicitor, because this is something that I love, and I find inspirational, especially from a woman's perspective also as well. Could you talk to me about why and your journey into becoming a solicitor came around, and how did you become emotionally connected to wanting to be a solicitor?
It started, as I said, when I was young. So
Yeah,
seeing the injustices around me motivated me. It was quite hard. So I lived in a government housing, and it was a block of units, 16 floors, and it was one of a few housing commissions in that area. And so I saw injustices all around me. And I it was really that made me want to, make a difference, as I said. So I was tossing up between, as I said, once I reached a certain age, between journalism and law. But I think instinctively, I always knew I was going to do something relating to, law, if not politics. I used to watch documentaries on, Martin Luther King. So in my little apartment, much to my
Aww.
embarrassment, I can't believe I'm admitting this. I used to walk around in my little apartment and say, free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last, like as if I was Martin Luther King. So I can't believe I admitted that. So,
Well, maybe you
yeah.
said it in your own way because it resonated with you and you felt something towards it. Maybe you did have a type of freedom.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I wanted freedom for a lot of people, like, in a lot of circumstances. So, I'm just thinking back, during that time there was the fall of the wall in East and West Germany. So, I used to watch the news, and I loved uh, people winning, basically. People power was a huge thing for me. So when Nelson Mandela came out of jail, that was another victory. Um, so I'm just thinking back to the period of history that took place. So yeah, in terms of freedom, freedom always resonates for me. I value freedom, and I value people's independence, and I value people's rights to, speak their mind. That's a huge thing for me.
Definitely. That's definitely. What makes you stand out, Rose, from everybody else who is a solicitor? What do you feel inside you that makes you stand out as a solicitor?
My gosh, that's a very hard question to answer. I guess what makes me stand out is my what well, one of my bosses actually said to me, you resonate well with the little people, like, you're the battler. In Australia they call him
Yeah.
the battler. So he said you resonate well with them, and I think that's one of my strengths. That's where I stand out, in that I do understand, if you're the underdog, so to speak, if
Yeah.
you're someone going through difficulties in life, and as I said, you're seeking assistance in terms of your rights, for your rights to be validated, or you want justice, then I think I am the person that you would turn to.
which is good. We need a lot more people like you, Rose.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. How do you continue to come up with new ideas and new strategies when it comes to continuously being different like you are? What would you say that you do creatively or even just in your mind to always come up with new ideas, to think of ways to knock down doors, break down windows, to find new opportunities? What would you say that you do?
I think I'm just myself. I don't have a strategy. I don't like I think about ideas because, that's what makes the world. Like, ideas make the world. So I guess you can say I'm idealistic, I'm a dreamer, but yeah, I'm pragmatic because I put those dreams, I attempt to put those dreams into action. So yeah, I basically I sorry, I've lost my train of thought there, but I basically just look at different people that I look up to, like that I idolize, and I think to myself, what is it that they've done, or what is it that they do, and in turn, I can take the same actions, the same steps, and I can, better people's lives because that's what I really want to do. That's what I've always wanted to do, as I said, from a very young age.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so here's a question for you which has different parts within it. So, to help people understand you even more, because I always like to try and go to the depth of what people do and how they do it within their profession. But to help people understand you even more, how could you break down the process of what you do as a profession? Because I know you do different things. Say, for instance, corporate law, commercial law, you do. Also, you do research cases also. Would you be able to break down some of the cases that you do just so anybody who has the ambition or wants to become a solicitor can understand exactly what you do?
Yes, I can. Okay. So basically, I majored in corporate and commercial law.
Yeah.
So I've done debt recovery, and that's not exciting at all. And I did
Oh,
that. Debt recovery was just not exciting. it, it was one of the boring parts of law. But that process just involved phoning people and negotiating. So negotiation is one of the skills that you need if you go into law and in particular debt recovery. And I always aimed to keep people outside of the court system. And I spoke to them. I, tried to understand why it was that they hadn't made the payment, and I did conflict resolution. If they, if I yeah, I would try my best. But if they were still very rude or they were unwilling to meet me halfway, obviously I had no choice but to, then proceed in lodging an application with the court, and then they would have to appear in front of the judge for the amount that they needed to pay back. Um, I think where it gets more interesting in terms of law is when I did employment and discrimination law. So that was where I had the real one-on-one client interactions. So I actually had the clients in front of me and I spoke with them. And it was one of the most difficult things that I had to do on a daily basis. They were people who were unfairly treated in terms of their employment. So they may have asked for pay slips, and then the boss was, for one reason or another, and obviously for dodgy reasons, at that would not give them the pay slips because they were being underpaid, for example. So they might have actually said, to their boss that they needed new gloves because some of the people that I came across were cleaners. So they made complaints about, obviously we're in COVID now. So they made complaints about needing temperature checks done in order to, ensure everyone's safety. And the bosses wouldn't have, or didn't, I should say, implement temperature checks. And so when they came to me, they were quite wounded And and rightly so, because they were concerned, obviously, about their welfare and about the welfare of their co-workers in seeking temperature checks. And if they asked for pay slips, they were rightly wounded because, they were being underpaid, and the boss wasn't giving the pay slips because, not only were they being underpaid, but perhaps the boss wasn't lodging it with the taxation. So that was where it was very real for me. In terms of the discrimination cases as well, that was very hard to do. So I looked after people who face racial discrimination, disability discrimination, age discrimination, surprisingly,
Yeah.
and not just older people, but younger people. So would speak to them and obviously address their issues. I guided them as well in terms of the action that they could take. So if it was employment law, I did a affidavit. Sorry, I did a submission for them. And I lodged it with the Fair Work Commission, and then a conciliation would take place. And if the conflict couldn't be resolved there, the next step was going to the Federal Circuit Court of Australia. So, and with the discrimination cases, very much the same. I'd do a submission for the Australian Human Rights Commission. If the conflict couldn't be resolved there, once again, it would go to the Federal Circuit Court of Australia. So that is a process which took place, and that's
Wow.
I guess that's that's as much as I can sort of get into the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah. Wow. That's a
Yeah.
lot of work. It's very detailed as well.
It is, yeah, it was very hard work, but I found the emotional side of it to be harder because at times I
Okay.
felt like I was their psychologist. I
Yeah.
didn't mind at all, but they were quite traumatized. And so I would advise them in terms of whatever it was that they were dealing with. Like I had one client who was sexually harassed, and it really deeply cut her because she had she was under the impression that by working in a law firm, you know, her rights were going to be respected, and that she wouldn't have been placed in the situation which she was, and she was being sexually harassed by her own boss. So she was quite wounded. That one was a very difficult case. And obviously for privacy reasons, I can't go
Of
further
course.
into it.
No, that's fair
But
enough.
yeah, I did have to console her and you know, just basically also take the role of being a psychologist, so to speak.
Wow. I know this question is not even on my list, but I would love to ask you it. How do you feel men and women are treated differently when it comes to being in any type of workplace? Just from your opinion, do you feel that it's improved, or do you still feel that men are being the superior rather than men and women being equal?
I'm really glad you asked. That's one of my favorite questions. And I love it when
Perfect.
people ask me that question because I'm very passionate about equality for women, obviously. And I don't think we're equal.
Mhm.
I think we're far from that. I think we've got a long road ahead. And I'm very hopeful at this point in time because Joe Biden, who just won the election, the US election, I'm very hopeful with him being the president of America, and I'm saying this because Kamala Harris,
Yeah.
when she made her speech, you watched it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited when she made her speech. I was so impressed with her. She didn't just talk about like and obviously I commend her for also making mention of her race, but she didn't just focus on her race. She brought up the issue of equality for women. And when she did that, it resonated so much for me because she said, I'm not going to be the last woman here. Like there are going to be many women who are going to be vice president of America. And then what touched me even more is, and I commend men like Joe Biden. I
Yes,
commend them so much because he's a real man, right? He's not afraid of having a strong woman beside him. That
exactly.
is a sign of a real man. So when she actually said that if it wasn't for Joe Biden, like, obviously she did come there because she's quite capable, but that he helped open that door. Because had he shut that door, even though she's a remarkably intelligent, strong, capable woman, she wasn't going to be able to get through. So he opened that door. So it's like anyone in life lifting you up, male or female. That's what it's about. So it's not even about gender, but sadly, in terms of women, needing to um, advance themselves and for them to be equal to men, we do now have to speak about gender. But Joe Biden, what a man. That's all I'm going to say.
I love that. See, that's
Yeah.
perfect. See, and she's right. She might be the first to go in, but she definitely won't be the last. This will open doors for so many women of color, race. It doesn't matter, professions as well. And every time I talk to any woman of a profession and is passionate about what they do, they're knocking down doors every day. So I commend every single one of you for doing that, who are out there and listening on the podcast, for knocking down doors and opening windows so that other people can have an opportunity. I can't wait for Joe to get into the house, and I'm not
Neither
gonna
can I.
say and I'm not gonna say kick out the other one, but
No, kick out the other one. I'll say it. Just kick him out. He's so arrogant.
no, I can talk for hours about that, but I won't because I know where it will go. So definitely. Um
I have
I
to
was gonna
commend you as a woman. You're commending so many people so many women that have come on your show, but I have to commend you because,
oh
if you, yeah, of course I do because I'm acknowledging the fact that you're a strong woman. You do these podcasts and you bring women like myself onto these podcasts. And if it wasn't for women like you, women like me right now would not be in this position talking about themselves. So I commend you for
oh
that and I thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That means a
It's a
lot to
pleasure.
me. Oh, you know when you go shy and then you kind of cover
I
your
know.
face after a while? It's like, yeah, that's how I feel right now, guys. Oh,
It's a good feeling. It's a good
it
feeling.
is. It is. It's more of a spiritual feeling for me, knowing that I'm spiritually aware of my surroundings and being able to give people a platform. For me, I love connecting with everybody. It doesn't matter where you're from. I have such a huge background because I am so many cultures in one. I'm Indian, St. Lucian, Jamaican, and English. So there are so many cultures within me that I know I can resonate and help people with and just bring them on board to understand that no matter where you come from, you are a person who has a gift in life to share with other people. We're all here for a reason. Nobody's here not for no reason. We are all here
Exactly.
for a reason, and we just need to find out what that reason is and then share it. So thank you so much, Rose. That means a lot to me. And
It's
I've
my
gone back
pleasure.
into shy mode.
That's okay.
My next question for you is how important it, I think you've kind of answered it really, but how important is it for you to have a voice and for you to be able to work with other people to help them have a voice?
It's very important. Um, I can't even describe it. I have always fought against people, stopping me from speaking out. As I said, I value, freedom of speech. It's one of the top things that I value. So if I found myself in a position where I couldn't speak out in terms of, being a solicitor or being part of any association, political or non-political, it would kill me. And I have many times found myself in situations like this. So it has been quite difficult. I hope to God that in my profession as a solicitor, I won't ever be asked not to speak out and to voice my opinion, because I would, it would obviously tear me. And you know what? I've never been afraid to walk away. I know it would be a very difficult and lonely journey, but will walk away.
See, sometimes it's good to walk away from things and say no. I agree with you there. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
what do you most look forward to in the future?
That is a hard question to answer. Oh my gosh, what do I look most forward to in the future? I'll go back to when I was a little girl.
Yeah,
I'll
go
go
for
back
it.
to when I was a little
Yeah.
girl. Um, when I was a little girl, what I looked forward to was, for racism to be non-existent,
Mm-hmm.
for there to be religious tolerance, because I loved listening to John Lennon. Yeah, it resonates with you. You're shaking
Mm-hmm.
your head. Fantastic. So, and I didn't want children to live in poverty,
Yeah.
because obviously I lived in poverty. And it was one of the most difficult things, not to have the basic necessities that one needs. And so that everything that I'm outlining right now to you, is what I still want, for the future. So, and I used to love world peace. That was one of, I know it sounds
Yeah.
very cliche, it sounds very
No?
Miss American, or Miss Universe, I should say. But world peace was another one, because I used to watch, a lot of, the news would broadcast a lot of wars happening around the world. And I used to watch it, and I used to think to myself, world peace, that's, we need to find a common ground. So I love the word humanity, and everything that I want stems from that word.
I love that. That makes sense to me. What do you wish you had known before you started your profession as a solicitor? Is there anything that you feel that you've missed or didn't understand that you thought as you went into it? You say to yourself sometimes when you're sitting by yourself in the evening, sometimes, I wish I knew that before I started this profession.
Yes, yeah, there's a strong one. I had, sadly no idea that the profession, not only in Australia but around the world, I know most definitely in England and America, that there's a lot of bullying and sexual harassment in the legal profession. And I did not know this. And I don't want to say I went in, with my eyes closed, or I was idealistic. But if those who have become lawyers are about, upholding the law, how can they have lowered their standards? It's just mind blowing. And there's this remarkable young man named Kieran. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing his surname correctly and remembering it correctly. Pendon. Forgive me, Kieran, if I've got it wrong, but he actually is a human rights lawyer, and he has looked at this, and he's an advocate, to eliminate bullying and sexual harassment in the legal profession in England and in
Oh, wow.
Australia. So I'm in great admiration for what he does. And I wish, yeah, as you said, I wish, I did know that there was a lot of bullying and a lot of sexual harassment in the law profession. It's, yep, sorry.
No, 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 go for it.
I was just going to say it cuts deeply. Um,
Yeah.
it really does.
Wow. Because the way I think of it also, Rose, because of what you just said, do men not realize that they have mothers and they have sisters?
Exactly. Well said. I agree. Exactly. It comes to the same fact of when men commit domestic violence, do
Mm.
they not know that they've got a sister or they've got a mother?
Or a daughter
You know,
even, yeah.
yeah. I'm at a loss. I have no answers as to why there's widespread bullying and sexual harassment in the legal profession, and surprisingly worldwide. I thought we had come a long way from there, like in terms of, um, as I said, I was under the assumption that even if there had been a bit of bullying or a bit of sexual harassment, it wasn't to the level that it is. So coming into the profession, it's extremely widespread, and I did not know that.
Do you feel that men, just in your opinion, can feel very intimidated by a woman of strength and knowledge? Big, and
Yeah,
that's why bullying happens, because they feel that presence of a woman. Because it for me, I always think of this. You were created by a woman, and you were brought into a world by a woman. You were nurtured by a woman. You were given wisdom by a woman also. So for you to grow up as a man and then bully a woman and to make her try and feel lower than what she really is, that shows me insecurity.
exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's insecurity. It really is. And I'll go back to Joe Biden. As I said, that's a real man. He's so secure in himself. And so because he's so secure in himself, he doesn't feel threatened whether it's a man or a woman that's standing beside him.
Yeah,
So that's where someone's real strength comes from. Like, if they're so secure in themselves, or they're so good-hearted, they're so kind-hearted
yeah,
that they don't have that jealousy. Everyone has, yeah, everyone has enviousness. Like, you envy someone, but you don't have that jealousy. Jealousy is very cutthroat.
yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think it's because they're insecure. I've got no doubt of it, doubt about it. Because why would you do that to, obviously to a woman, but to any other human being?
Exactly. That makes sense to me. Hmm. What are you most proud of that you stand for as an individual?
Wow,
She's
you're giving me
smiling.
so much. You're giving me the hard questions tonight. Um, what is it that I'm proud of, that I stand for? Oh my gosh, I that one's just thrown me off. That's a really deep question.
Yeah.
I think I'm proud that I stand up for people's rights. So
Hey.
that's always been my strength, as I've said. I'm proud that I've never shied away from fights, even though I found myself in difficult situations where you know everyone else has remained quiet, but
Yes.
I've always stepped up, and I've stepped up, and I've protected the person who's had something done wrong to them.
Yeah.
So I'm very proud of that I stand up, and I protect that person.
See, that makes sense to me. I love that. What is the best advice, Rose, that you have ever received from somebody that you have taken throughout your life up to today that has helped you?
That would be my mum. You're gonna make me
Ah,
cry.
yeah.
Sorry. That would be my mum, and I love her. She oh wow. I don't want to tear up.
Oh.
She's raised us, pretty much alone. So she's always told my sister and I not to be afraid and to always have courage. And she has said that everyone is the same. It's not about money, it's not about title. Everyone is the same. Everyone, because she is religious, she says
Yes,
everyone is God's children,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
So she says, don't ever be scared, like to follow your heart. That's another one
That's
she
true.
says.
Yep.
And so, but I just, yeah, she's always given me strength. She
Aw.
always, yeah. I don't
See?
want to get emotional.
No, I can see Rose is getting emotional, guys, but it's of a good nature.
It is.
You know, it's definitely of a good nature. Here's one for you. It's just a random one. Is if heaven exists, yeah, and when you do arrive on the gates of heaven, what would you like God to say to you?
You're gonna tee me up. Like, um, I want God to say, sorry, I'm gonna cry.
Oh
I can't believe I'm this. If you told me I was gonna cry tonight, I wouldn't have
no,
believed
it's
you.
no.
Um, but you're really good with your questioning.
Oh,
Um, if I died tonight and I arrived at the pearly gates of heaven, and I would want God to say that I was kind to everyone I met. Um, sorry.
no, it's
That I
okay.
was, I growing up, in particular in Redfern, um, having people judge me and put me down for not having a lot of things and for having to live in Redfern and sorry, for having sorry, I'm gonna grab a tissue.
Yeah. Oh.
For having and this is very difficult to admit, for
Mhm.
having a father who um was violent against my mum. I I always used to say, be kind to whoever you meet, because everyone is facing a hard battle in life.
That's true.
So for me, if I got to heaven, I would want God to say to me, you were kind to everyone that you met, and so, you know, um, that would be my reward. That itself would be my reward for him to say that to me.
To me, you sound like you have a beautiful mother, and no matter what she's been through, she's managed to have the strength to bring you and the rest of your family up to be great people.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely, that's what I feel. Um, you made me go sad too.
I'm so
Um,
sorry.
it's good in a way because emotions are one of the best things to make people connect with you.
That is so
Um,
true. I agree. Yeah, my mum, she's my rock.
see,
She really is.
if I could give you a huge banner and a pen, and I was to say to you, Rose, write whatever you want on this banner so millions of people could read it, what would you write on this banner?
Oh my gosh. Love.
Mm-hmm.
John Lennon. Love. Yeah. His song Imagine was really all about love.
That's
So
true.
it was about breaking down cultural barriers, religious barriers, and it was all about love. So I would write love.
See, if you could choose one quote that represents you as a person, what quote would you choose and why would you choose that particular quote?
To represent one person, you said?
To represent you as a person.
To represent me as a person, one quote.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. God. You're really giving me the hard questions today. One quote to represent me as a person. Oh wow. Yeah, I think Cummins, if I'm pronouncing this poet's name correctly, he's an American poet, and it's something that he said which really all throughout my life has resonated with me. And it is that, he said, to be nobody else in this world but yourself. When everyone, yes, I can't, I'm not probably remembering the wording correctly. But to be nobody else but yourself in a world that's doing its best night and day to make you like everybody else means to fight the hardest battle of your life. And that really, really resonates with me. That is what I do, I think, day in and day out, because I don't just want to blend in.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to be who I am. And that is, the most difficult thing you can be, to be who you are.
See, that is so true. And I think that would go in my top 10 quotes when I do a podcast of my top 10 best quotes from my guests. I think that
Really?
would definitely, yeah, I think that would definitely be in there. Let's talk about success.
Yes.
What does success mean to you, Rose? Because everybody has a different definition of what success means to them. But what does success mean to you?
Success to me means, obviously, I'm not one for titles. I'm not one for
Yeah,
money.
same as
Um,
me.
so that's not success. I am ambitious, I will tell you, which, people look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, you work so hard and you want to get places in life and yes, I do, but not for the reasons that they think, because everyone thinks, if you want to do those things, it's because you want a lot of money, you want a title, you want to become famous, and those are not the reasons. So for me, success means that, as I said, I get to make a difference in people's lives. So, um, Oprah Winfrey, for me, she is successful not because she's got a television station, not because she's one of the richest women in America, not because she's made a name for herself, but because everything she does because she wants to make a difference
Yeah,
and because it resonates with her values.
yes.
And so that is success for me. I want to make a difference and it has to resonate with my values.
I think that's one of the best answers I've ever had for that question.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yeah.
you're going to make me go shy.
No, I think it is, definitely. It means a lot to make people understand that success is not about materialistic things and titles, whereas a lot of people in the world think that, even on my daily talks with people, they think that success is about title and money, and the more you have, the more power you have. And I think that's the wrong direction to go in. So thank you
That
for sharing that.
that is, and look, I'll come back to my mother again. She used to say to my sister and I that, and it's like an Armenian fable. So it's pretty much that there was a rich man, and in a small town, he was the richest man there, and he was the envy of everyone because he was rich, right? And the day came where he passed away, and he was in his coffin, and they took him through the town square. And because he was so well known, obviously he was the richest man there, everyone attended his funeral. And they saw that there was a hole in the coffin and that one of his arms was out of the coffin, like through that hole. So everyone was like thinking, why does he have his hand out? Like, why is there a hole and, one of his hands is just, poking out. And so his the person who obviously did the coffin, his request was that I want people to see that I've taken nothing with me. I did not take anything of material value with me, right? He was trying to say my hand is empty. So we're, as I said, we're all born equal and
Yeah.
we're all going to die. And my mum says, there's no rich person in the cemetery.
Yes. Even if they try and put a check in there.
Yes, that's right.
There's
Where would
no.
they cash it out?
I have no idea, Rose.
They could try.
I remember there was a story that a lady's husband, okay, so a lady has a husband as well. He was really wealthy also. And he says, you're not going to get any of my money. So so the wife said, oh, okay. So he says, I want to take all my money with me. This is exactly what he said. I want to take all my money with me. So she was like, okay. And on, it's so funny. On the day he passed away, she wrote a check
Yeah.
to him and she put it in the coffin. I think just before he died, when he could speak. Anyway, she put it in the coffin and she said, you can take this check with you, but I don't know where you're going to cash it. So she ended up with all of the money anyway.
I love that. That's a good one.
But he had a check that he could never cash because
Oh,
he had passed away. And it comes down to understanding the depth of what greed is, but also what humor is also.
exactly.
So you're right. I love the story where it's true. My mother always says that to me also. You're not going to take anything with you, and never envy what somebody else has, because life has a funny way of abundantly giving you more
I
when you
agree with
least
her.
expect
You've got
it.
a smart mother.
Yeah, she's very smart.
She's very smart. I love her.
She's very smart. We have good
She's
mothers.
very smart.
We have good mothers. Um, I have another one for you, which is, if there is a question that you wish somebody would ask you, but they never really do, what would that question be, Rose?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's another deep one. I think I would say, who are you would be good, because people don't ask me, who are you? So I'd love for someone to say to me someday, who are you? Like, tell me about yourself. And they will learn a lot, obviously, just as you have, because, and I think you did anyway.
My first question.
You did. There you go. So that's ticked off, tick. The academy
Definitely.
goes to you. I'm handing it over.
Well, I'm hoping for a few awards in the future, but not for the materialistic sense, but in the avenue to give other people a doorway,
Exactly.
if that makes sense. So that they can do something just as I have for women or young girls or anybody. It doesn't even have to be women, it could be men too, because some men feel like they don't have that avenue to be able to talk about things that they would like to talk about too. But definitely, I have two more for you, Rose.
Yes.
And my second to last one is, what would you like your legacy to be when you feel like you have given everything to the world, and then God says, I'm going to take you back to heaven's door? What would you like your legacy to be?
This is a dream. Like, I would love my legacy to be very much like something that, I'm coming back to, that Barack Obama has done, or Oprah Winfrey has done, or, you know, uh, I would like to obviously make a difference, and I'd like my legacy to be that. And so if I died, I'd love someone to say that she made a huge contribution to humanity in some form. So it's not going to come to pass, I'm sad to say. But that was one of my childhood dreams. So and I still hold on to those dreams, and I can't see it coming to fruition, sadly. I wish, I wish. Sometimes I think to myself, if I was a renowned, uh, international human rights lawyer, for example, that would be spectacular. So, or if I wrote a book and it had an impact according, like, in a way, in a way that, people interacted with one another, then, I would be very, very happy. So my legacy would be to make for people to say she made a huge contribution to humanity.
I think you still are making a huge contribution, regardless, and you still can.
Thank you so much. I think I do it in small ways. Like I do it with the people that I meet because for me, everyone that I come across, my interactions with them are very much precious and important because it's going to have a impact on their lives. It's going to leave a
Yeah.
footprint. So in that way, I tell myself I'm making a difference. I'm, contributing to humanity.
See? And that's good enough for the world because you're saving many people's lives,
Thank you so
just by
much.
being there. And my last question for you, Rose, is where can we find you on all your social medias, just like I did? Where can we find you if anybody would like to contact you?
I think it was a miracle that you found me. And I am, again, so honored that you picked me because, I sometimes go and listen to your podcasts and I'm just in awe with all the people that you've interviewed, or the ones that I've listened to, and they're well known. And so I'm very humbled that you found me through LinkedIn. So that's one of the ways that other people can find me. They can find me on Twitter,
Yeah.
and they can find me obviously on Facebook, and pretty much that's my social media. I mean, I'm also actually on Instagram, so that's one of
Hey.
4 options. Yeah.
Oh, Rose, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast. And just for everyone to know, Rose is actually in Australia, so it's now 9 o'clock here in London, and I'm sure it's what
It's
time is it
let me
over there,
see.
Rose?
It's 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock in
See?
Sydney, Australia.
Oh my gosh, I've done this a few times. And I love it every time. Rose, I'm humbled to have your knowledge, wisdom, and kindness on the podcast. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the Us People podcast. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to meet you someday.
Yes, most definitely. I hope so too.
You have to come down to Australia.
I will do, yeah, definitely. As soon as they let me on a plane, I will.
Please do.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast, and please remember you can subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you can also donate to the Us People podcast by simply going to the Savia Rocks website or just typing in paypal.me/Us People podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another.
That's what I love about you. I love that about your podcast because, it's like, us people, everyday people. It doesn't, as you said, doesn't matter what, line of work you're in, and doesn't matter what your income level is. Like we face the same things in life, like, or we can feel for what someone else has gone through because we've gone through similar experiences. So I can't thank you enough. You're just beautiful. And I'm just happy for this moment in time.